Welcome to Charts This Week. My name is David Linton. I run Updata, and this week's edition for Monday, the 14th of November, comes to you from London. And we start by looking at crude oil. We're just seeing the correlation between crude oil and the dollar just falling back to fairly neutral at the moment. We're seeing a strong dollar, which is normally would have an impact on commodities, and we'll talk about the dollar shortly. But interestingly, we are seeing crude just now continuing this sell-off, and we expect that at this time of year. We see the seasonality over on this chart. We see the seasonality is bad. We expect crude to fall, and we are back below the cloud. And this $45 level was pretty important. We're breaking below that. It's really now coming back to test this August low of around 41.50. So that's where we'd look to next on Brent in terms of the medium term. And so just worth recognizing that we are at that time of year where crude does fall away. It has been slow to happen this year, but it does look like the seasonal effect is now catching up with us. We're below the cloud on the 60-minute chart. There is a little bit of shortage there of downward targets, but we are in bearish mode below the cloud, making new lows. So that is significant. And if we take a look at WTI, again we're below the cloud. If we're down here at just below $43 now, if we press the T key again, just a shortage of targets. We can go up a box size, and we will get downside targets. We're getting 40 and 38, so we are seeing targets to the downside. In fact, we can do the same on Brent. So we are just seeing about 10% downside there. If we go to a bigger box size, they're just showing up there, 39.90, 43. So we do have these downside targets weighing on the price now, and it looks like Brent will go lower in the run up to Christmas. And if we look at the 1 minute chart, of course, if you're trading crude oil, this is the chart to watch, and we see here downside targets 43.75, 43.50. So we are really seeing that kicking in. If we take a look at US nat gas, we see here we are bullish above the cloud on the weekly, bearish on the daily. We tend to have a little bit of stronger time of year, and we're just coming through on the 60-minute chart. So we are just starting to see a recovery in Henry Hub. Shift T, we've got an upside target to 287. That's 4.8% upside, 5% upside. So we are seeing that just playing through as well. So the downside targets were given and met, but we've now got new upside targets. And of course, if you're trading Henry Hub short term, the T key, just press the T key on your system. 2.8%, 2.8, 283, that's 3.5% upside. So we are just seeing those upside targets kicking in. Crude looking bearish, gas just looking a little bit better. European gas markets now just falling away a bit. We're above the cloud on the daily chart, but on the 60-minute chart we're seeing here we're below the cloud. We had this great run in European gas, and just in the last week we've seen that just coming off, and a series of lower highs, lower lows. The Dow theory just playing through, a bit easier to see on this lagging line, and of course that just is a bit bearish for the price at the moment. Press the T key on your system. These are all OTC prices, either off your Trayport screen or the Updata energy feed, and we see here we've got downside targets 46.20, 48.50, 48.85. So we are just seeing a really downside here. Anything as much as 6% downside there on MBP front month. Of course, if you're trading MBP, the chart to really watch is the 1 minute data, again off your Trayport screen or the Updata energy feed. And we're seeing here 7% downside targets, 45.75, 45.50. We're seeing here 47.90. So we are seeing quite a lot of downside pressure there on the very short term chart. So it does look like gas will have a less good week. If we look at TTF, we're seeing here the action. We're above the cloud, but we've got this again, the sort of lower high, just looking a little bit like a head and shoulders showing in through there. So we just do need to be aware of that. And on the 60-minute chart, we are below the cloud. We've topped. It looks like we've got downside potential here now, and we've got downside targets 15 euros. So that's 15% downside. Upside targets as well. So quite a bit of uncertainty. Just to watch there. NCG and Gazprom, much the same picture as we'd expect. And we look at power markets. German power is really still through on the weekly cloud. This is after years and years of being below. The long-term trend has changed. We see here the daily cloud still has been going up the hill the last couple of months. We've gone from 25 to 35. It's a massive rise in German power, but we are seeing on the 60-minute chart now that's playing away. So we're seeing here we've got this lower high, then the lower low, and then lower high, and then the lower low, and we're below the cloud. We are seeing that deteriorate. Press the T key and you'll see the downside targets kicking in here. 31.75, 32.90. We are seeing prices just pulling back. If you're trading short term, the 1 minute chart is going to give you the heads up for the coming days. And we are seeing here 31.10. That's 5.6% downside. So German power looking much weaker than it has been in recent weeks for the week ahead. And if we look at French baseload, of course, this chart really has been a big driver for power markets in Europe. And if we look at the 60-minute chart, no signs here yet of a sell-off in French power. So that's holding up, but Germany is not. And so we still do have upside targets. No one prepared to sell the French power market at the moment. And we're seeing that play through in Italian power and UK power as well. So we're seeing strong power prices here. It's just Germany. We're starting to see a little bit of a sell-off in the short term. If we look at currencies, big story at the moment is the euro. Here we have the dollar index just above 100. That's really just going through the roof here. Dollar index looking very, very strong now. Strong dollar since the US election, and we're really seeing that play through. This 103 target has been here since June, and that's now where we're going on that 60-minute chart. So the euro is really plummeting against the dollar as a result. Here we see 107. And we're seeing that on the 60-minute chart as well. Press the T key, and we see here below as well. Parity is really the target. 106.40 is where we're looking to. That takes us right back to levels seen last year. So we're really just seeing that euro collapsing away now. And of course, if you're watching it in the very short term, this data all coming from Thomson Reuters Icon. Press the T key on your system, and you'll see here we are really just seeing now downside targets 105.80 on the 1 minute chart. So it is really just collapsing as we speak. No great surprises there. We saw that we were through and we've been bearish on the euro chart for some time, and when I spoke at this at the email conference the week before last, I said the chart for the year coming would be the euro-dollar chart falling away quite significantly. That's what's happening now. Sterling has recovered a little bit against the dollar, but it's just coming back now. So we saw this little short-term recovery off the US election, but it is coming back. So will we go lower? This is the trend we've seen over the last week or two, and we do now have a new downside target of 121.10, but we need to go lower to activate that. Looks like sterling just is running out of steam a little bit. If we look at euro sterling, see the euro is weakening here. 85.80 was much as 90 before. So we have seen that deteriorating, weaker euro now than sterling. Norwegian krona fairly flat. Swiss franc, we're seeing the euro falling against the franc as well. And if we look at the sterling Swiss chart, that has recovered a little bit, but still bearish. Last of all, let's just take a look at stock markets. The S&P 500 just opened up today, just a little bit stronger. So we're seeing still struggling to break this 2180 level, so that's really quite key. The Dow Jones is making a new all-time high, so that is bullish for the market, but we are seeing still tech stocks coming under quite a lot of pressure. Nasdaq not yet as bullish, and FTSE had a terrible sell-off at the end of last week, down over 1% on Friday, and we're just seeing here that it's struggling again today just to really regain that territory. It's up a bit, up 1%, but we just can't get back above this 7,000 level. So we're seeing that play through as well. And if we look at the DAX, again, the DAX is just testing this resistance level at about 7,800, and we're testing that again today. We're bullish above the cloud on the medium term, just turning bullish on the long term, and the short term is bullish. And we do have an upside target of 9% at 11,650, so we are seeing some potential for the German market to run. Great news in Japan overnight about the Japanese economy. That's driving the Nikkei forward, up 1.7% overnight. And so we're seeing Asian markets just looking stronger as a result. China looking a bit stronger as well. And if we take a look at the gold market, gold strangely has been falling, and that is the result of the strong dollar. So we're seeing gold just pulling away here to the downside. Long-term chart is still bullish, good long-term targets, but we are seeing us pulling right back to support here on the medium-term chart. So the key thing is, will we hold? We don't have many medium-term downside targets, but we do have a new downside target of another 12% activated. So quite key there, and we are just seeing this short-term sell-off bearish below the cloud, but the long-term picture is still bullish, one to keep an eye on. That's it for this week. Until next week, happy charting. See you then.